That brings us to the election. It's still unclear what's going to happen with the vote in New Jersey and New York, but they're not swing states, so they probably won't affect the actual presidential decisions. But you heard Alex on with Bev Harris of blackboxvoting.org, one of the experts on election fraud, talking about how under the Help America Vote Act, they are required by law to have a disaster relief plan should they get hit by a storm, as happened, should they lose electricity, as has happened. And it's not clear that those things are happening, that those measures have been put into place, even though you see the military there with backup units to take the vote. Well, we're going to see what happens when all is said and done, because there may well be cases of fraud in close House, Senate races, other local races, something to keep an eye on. But the overall national election coverage is going to be bigger and better than ever this year in this very tight race. Infowars.com is doing live election coverage. Of course, Alex will have his regular show during the day's broadcast. We will still do the Infowars Nightly News, but we're going to have a special free live stream broadcast from 5 p.m. Central to midnight Central, and we're going to have all kinds of guests outside of the regular left-right paradigm. When you turn on CNN, when you turn on Fox, and they call these races with 1% in, with just a few percentage ins, and they've got the typical pundits on either side of the fence, but never anywhere else in the spectrum, calling it like it supposedly is. Well, this is the real analysis you've been waiting for. It's people like Gerald Celente, people like Max Kaiser, Wayne Madsen, Paul Craig Roberts, Lew Rockwell, who says in some cases don't even vote for president, Nomi Prins, who worked inside Wall Street and was a whistleblower, and of course Webster Tarpley, who always brings a very unique perspective to the debate. You don't want to miss that. Alex will of course be there. We're also going to have our many Infowars Nightly News reporters out on the scene talking to regular folks in the streets. I believe we're going to be at some of the campaign events, and we're going to bring you total coverage, so you don't want to miss that. Meanwhile, the threats to riot from Obama supporters should Romney win the White House have reached a crescendo. Paul Joseph Watson cataloged some of the dozens and dozens of threats on Twitter and other social media platforms that were rolling in per hour of people saying they're going to riot, people saying if Romney wins, we're going to go out on the streets and riot. You've got different quotes there. Me and Future going to start a riot. Romney wins, every struggling college student minds will mount up time to riot. If President Obama is reelected, rednecks will burn crosses. If Romney wins, expletives will riot. And it goes on and on. There's all kinds of quotes, many of them not even literate, but there is a real danger here. And I heard Alex's take on this. I happen to agree with it. There may not be rioting if it's a clear-cut election, if one candidate or another clearly wins with a mandate. But we've got such an incredibly close election here, particularly in Ohio, which we're going to get to momentarily. That could be what triggers the pitting of groups against each other. That could be what triggers riots if Romney's declared a winner, but it's not clear-cut. If no one is settled on the outcome in Ohio or any other key swing state, that may be what puts people over the edge. Let's certainly hope not. You shouldn't riot over that, because presidents don't even hold the real power. When President Harry Truman said the buck stops here, that was at a point in time where the continuity of government and the power of agencies behind the president was so great that it was literally a farcical and inverted statement. Folks, we're not voting for who's really in power of this country. We've got an entire corporate-controlled takeover, and we've got to begin to look at those issues bit by bit, not get into this horse race of Obama, Romney, Bush, Kerry, Gore, Bush, on, McCain, Obama, and everyone else we've been faced with in recent years. So with that in mind, I bring you to the latest polls on the Mitt Romney-Obama showdown. You've got Rasmussen from today, Mitt Romney 49%, Obama 48%. Well within the margin of error. I know we have these stories pulled up on the tabs there. The Reuters poll shows the race is dead even in terms of the popular vote, but says Obama is, quote, crushing Mitt Romney in the Electoral College. You've got the Examiner.com showing how close the polls are in Ohio between Obama and Romney. They cite multiple new polls and analyze them. You've got Rasmussen's own latest poll in Ohio, what many people consider to be the key swing state in this election, and it is incredibly dead even. Romney 49%, Obama 49%. Just going off the voting from these polls, which of course only survey about 1,000 to 1,500 people at a time, you really can't call it. It is too close to call. That doesn't mean there's not other factors involved. Policy Mike is showing that in the Ohio polls, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian third-party candidate, who many people don't think will get more than 1%, could be an X factor no one's talking about in Ohio. Even if he only gets 1%, that could be enough to swing it to Obama, presuming that many Libertarian supporters may come from the Republican side. I don't know if that's true because so many people are disaffected and refusing to vote for either party. But regardless, this is going to be a very tense vote. And yet we are told from NPR.org, National Public Radio, many other outlets that don't worry about the vote in Ohio. There's not going to be voting fraud. No, Romney's son is not gunning to steal the Ohio vote by rigging the machines. And, of course, it came out last week and in earlier weeks how Tag Romney, Mitt Romney's oldest son, has stock in the company Solamare Capital, which is in turn invested in the Hig Fund, which is in turn invested in Hart Civics, who control the electronic voting machines in Ohio. And they're saying, well, there's no meaningful connection to the Romney family, but even if there were, it wouldn't matter. And so, of course, Bev Harris, again from blackboxvoting.org, who was on the Alex Jones show today, pointed out that these various holding companies connected to owning the Hart Civics machines are essentially just a Bain Capital spinoff group, and there's no reason to trust them. There's especially no reason to blindly trust them. We have to investigate this regardless of what party is in power. Look back to the 1960 elections. They've been stealing and rigging elections since the dawn of time, since before they had democracy, I would have to imagine. If you accept the pun anyway. But in 1960, JFK versus Nixon, they were both admittedly stealing the vote, doing all they could to ballot stuff and getting mafia groups involved. But JFK was just stealing a little bit better. That's why he became president. And, well, you see what happened to him. No, necessarily not connected to the election itself. But the point is, we can't accept these machines. We can't trust them when we know how easily they could be hacked. Bev Harris knows that better than anyone. She did the documentary on hacking democracy, the books and the materials and the website that goes with it, years and years of investigating, and yet you've got a county election official in Hamilton County, a Sally Krizzle, saying if somebody was going to do something funny, believe me, everybody would know. And she's essentially offended that they can't trust these machines. And Hart Civic has a long track record of supporting, quote, fair and open democratic processes. That's from a spokesman for the company, Charles Simpkins. And they're saying there's just no reason not to trust these machines. They switched to paper ballots. How dare you? How could you? Oh, really? The paper ballot systems from Hart Civics, the e-scan systems? Well, what happened with them, of course, originated after the very contentious 2004 election between Bush and Kerry, where the vote was hacked. It was essentially proven that in Ohio, you had various officials from Diebold, you name it, saying they were going to hand the election to Bush. He won it. That, in fact, was critical to the election. You better believe the machines played a role. So they switched, and yet they found in 2007 that these Hart Civics machines, in particular the e-scan and Ballot Now machines, while using paper ballots, could not accurately count the ballots, and therefore they failed to receive certification even where many electronic voting machines were certified. And the bottom line is, even if they were certified, anyone on the inside of the election systems could very easily manipulate it. All you need is essentially just a card. You put it into the machines, and it's very easy to flip it. There's no real way to account for those paper ballots, although it's certainly more reassuring on the surface. Now, that's people alleging that Republicans were going to steal it. In this case, it was the Colorado Secretary of State, Michael Kaufman, who did the testing and recertification in 2007. In 2010, it was alleged that Democrats would use the very same Hart InterCivics machines to try to steal the election for the Democrats so they could take over the House for the Obama-related people in 2010. And that also gets into the Hart e-scanning voting machines and how they violate constitutional rights, how they conceal the essential counting process from the public, how they could be easily manipulated with anyone with inside access, and how the tally software that adds up the votes from the precincts cannot be verified. Ohio Secretary of State's office admits direct reporting function of untested election software. This is in Truth Out, and they are talking about Ohio's Secretary of State, John Husted. He is, in fact, a Republican, which could be telling with all these Bain Capital connections to the machines. He has installed only days ago uncertified and untested software on up to 39 counties in the state. This will affect as many as 4 million votes in the state. It's part of a pilot project they're doing with 25 counties or so. Again, actually, it's 39 counties, so it's not statewide, but it is a pilot project they're doing during a live election in what is considered to be the critical swing state. Just absolutely incredible. Should not sit well with anyone, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. The freepress.org has been very heavily on this issue, actually reporting on it even before Truthdig, asking why the Ohio Secretary of State, John Husted, put in this experimental software. It ties in with the Triad Computer Systems, who do the maintenance, and with the ES&S voting machine company, also involved in the maintenance, and they have put in software patches, the very thing that Bev Harris warned is used to hack these machines, and that other people investigating these machines have flagged. It's presumably illegal, again, untested, because it hasn't been certified, and yet it will be used to tabulate these official results, and those results will go directly to the Secretary of State's office. That's the only live reporting they do back. Again, the verification is very questionable. So a lawsuit has been filed over this issue of the experimental software by the Ohio Green Party and by freepress.org, in particular Bob Fitrakis, who's the editor there. And so whatever happens in Ohio, the deal will not be done because there's a lawsuit in over these electronic voting machines that use paper ballots, but which are electronically scanned and counted. So no matter what, there's going to be some fallout over this. I think it's probably going to be a while before we know for sure what happened in Ohio, but we'll see what people say. And there's one more issue that Ohio Secretary of State is involved in that he implemented just 4 days before the election, and that is their new policy on the provisional ballots. Of course, in Ohio, if you request an absentee ballot but then show up to the actual polling place to vote, you must cast a provisional ballot, and there's all kinds of fracas and controversy over under what circumstances they count. If you fill it out wrong, is it up to the ballot person to make those corrections or up to the voter? If you send it in through mail but also file a provisional ballot, what happens? A lot of balls in the air, and there's at least 800,000 absentee ballots that have not been sent out, have not been filled in, and therefore you could have as many as 800,000 provisional ballots. Just incredible what might happen in Ohio, what could happen in other places throughout the country as well. Let's all keep an eye on this election while keeping in mind it's a two-party dictatorship, and not much is going to change regardless of who's elected, apart from the fact that I think they really like two-term presidents because of the unchecked power you could carry out. You could do all manner of ill deeds that way. Now, if the government hacking elections hasn't been enough hacking for you, we can also cover Anonymous, who have announced their attacks on various websites today, November 5th, in honor of Guy Fawkes Day, that anonymous mask that they adopted several years ago, as well as their quoted plans to storm the White House and, quote, arrest government officials the day before the presidential election. That's from reports Paul Joseph Watson did, and this story by Kurt Nimmo. And so the hacker collective Anonymous claims it has released confidential consumer information that it stole from PayPal servers today, as well as from various other sites, including NBC, Lady Gaga's fan site hosted at NBC, Image Shack, Symantec, who's a computer security firm, and the Australian government. And that includes phone numbers, emails, domains, passwords, usernames, maybe even credit cards. We'll find out a lot of nasty business going on right around this time of year. In the surveillance state news, we can turn to Baltimore, who have announced a citywide surveillance rollout that records passenger conversations on city buses. Can you believe the audacity? This is up at thedrudgereport.com. It's, of course, on Infowars.com, and it comes from naturalnews.com, where J.D. Hayes wrote that it was published how in Baltimore, city officials are authorizing the recording of private conversations on public buses to investigate crimes, accidents, and poor customer service. It's all in the effort to make people feel safe, they say. More and more security for your safety. What did Benjamin Franklin say about this? He said if you trade your liberties for the feeling of security and safety, you're going to end up with neither. That's what's going to happen here. But, of course, we know that it's all part of the larger rollout for TSA, for Homeland Security to take over all transportation, to go to shopping centers, to go to malls. They're already at some sports stadiums, to take over all of public life, to let you know you're under surveillance, you're being watched. You may be considered a terrorist if you say something out of line. And that will, of course, include public buses. It's just crazy unconstitutional. The ACLU has raised questions about it, but for the moment it stands. Will anyone say no? We'll find out. We turn now to the quote of the day. It is from H.L. Mencken. Every election is a sort of advance auction sale of stolen goods. Definitely some words to think about. I want to remind you, you can support us at prisonplanet.tv. You can get a membership, share it with up to 5 people, tune into all our live broadcasts, all our archives, our special reports, you name it. It's an incredible online tool, but we're not limited to just online because we have the Infowars magazine. It's a physical print subscription. You can also get it in the electronic format, but these paper versions are absolutely incredible. You could buy a subscription. You can donate it to people, police stations, libraries, friends you know, family members, and you get 12 great chances to wake someone up every month. And while supplies last, we'll also send you the back issues so you can get 13, maybe even more magazines with that subscription. I was in a restaurant just yesterday and saw people picking up The Secret Life of Zombies issue. They were talking about it, laughing about it, and then, of course, they opened it to read the glossy magazine, all the beautiful artwork, and many fine sponsors as well, but a lot of powerful information in here, help wake people up to the zombification of TV, to the takeover in our media, and everything else covered in this magazine. Again, you can get a subscription, 12 issues plus 1, 13 issues, chance after chance to wake someone up, try to reach a zombie and convert them to the Infowar, or you can buy them in bulk at cost, save them and hand them out physically to people you know. And again, this is how we're going to wake up people inside the system who don't know what's going on, but who need to be woken up. Now, we're going to be back. That's all for the news portion, but Alex is interviewing Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer on the other side about the latest information on the Benghazi situation, the death of the ambassador, the fact that they were watching it live inside the White House. We'll be back after this, the Infowars Nightly News.
Every 4 years, the United States of America hears the drumbeat of billions. Every 4 years, the United States of America hears the drumbeat of billions of campaign dollar attack ads, meaningless debates with empty analysis, and poll after poll after poll. This can only mean one thing. It's time to pick our globalist puppet leader.
We're going to be left with a choice of a lesser of two evils.
They continue to vote for these Democrats and Republicans, the people that are wrecking our country, and yet they still vote for them.
Unlike North Korea and China, we Americans have the illusion of choice this November 6th. Will it be globalist puppet A or puppet B?
I think that a lot of votes are going to be stolen by the millions. In fact, I can give you a pretty solid number, about at least 5.9 million, because I'm a statistician. I work from the government's raw data. About 5.9 million votes are going to go kapoof.
I don't know how you could possibly have voter fraud when your son owns the voting machines.
Tune in to the live video streams at Prison Planet TV or Infowars.com from 5 p.m. to midnight Central. Alex Jones will be live with some great special guests to cover what is in store for our country as we march into the arms of the New World Order. And tune in Wednesday for more live, free stream election fallout coverage from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central. Coke or Pepsi, Romney or Obama. The choice is not up to you. So join us as we talk about the real issues facing our country. Guests will include Gerald Celente, Wayne Madsen, Max Kaiser, Paul Craig Roberts, Lew Rockwell, Nomi Prins, and Webster Tarpley. We will have live sheeple updates from polling centers and political parties around Austin. Which management team from Slavery Incorporated will run the country into oblivion for the next 4 years? Tune in to Infowars.com or Prison Planet TV this Tuesday, November 6th and Wednesday, November 7th as another meaningless pageant is played out. The streams will be free, so send the link below to all your friends on Facebook and Twitter.
As part of our live election coverage this Tuesday and Wednesday, we're not going to just give you rigged vote totals. We're going to give you the chance to vote early and vote often in our multiple polls. We want to know what you think of this election, what matters to you, and what you think will happen now. And if you have any questions you'd like to see included in a poll, you can email those to davidk@infowars.com or tweet them using the hashtag #PuppetPrez. And don't forget, the election coverage is not only live, but it's free on prisonplanet.tv.